Props and Locks on Fox 10 is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
It is a super wild card edition of Props and Locks. I'm Sierra Santos. The path to the Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium starts this weekend, and we have 6 playoff games to dive into. And we're keeping it in our own backyard first, but first we got to bring in our betting bestie, host of the Morning After on Sports Grid, Ben Stevens. And Ben, for the first time ever, Super Wild Card Weekend has a Monday night matchup. The Cardinals travel to Los Angeles for the rubber match between the two NFC West rivals. Some movement on the line as the Rams are now 3.5-point favorites, and this one may be a high-scoring affair as they combine for 110 points in their 2 regular season meetings. Over/under set at 49.5.
Sierra, let's start with that total because you're right. Both of the regular season meetings between these NFC West divisional foes booked in the 50s for those over-unders, and both went over those lofty totals. So 49 and a hook doesn't seem to be all that big. Now, a lot of people might look at this spread, and yes, it has worked in Arizona's favor, and think, the Cards are a road underdog in the opening round of the playoffs. That's not a good sign. In fact, it might be the best situation Cliff Kingsbury and Arizona could hope for. They are a perfect 6-0 against the spread and 6-0 straight up as an underdog this year. They have won in every game when booked as an underdog and are very good away from Arizona for whatever reason. This might be the perfect spot for the Redbirds on Monday night.
Okay, so I'm not going to lie. I really don't have a feel as to which way this game is going to go. And I cover the Cardinals week in, week out, so that's why I'm loving the props. Let's talk about anytime touchdown score. Cooper Kupp is at -175, James Conner +115, Kyler Murray at +200, and Tyler Higbee at +230.
Listen to me right now. Although Cooper Kupp is the best receiver in the NFL, you will never, ever, ever touch a prop that has that much juice on it at -175, especially for something as random as finding the end zone. Now, Cooper Kupp has 16 receiving touchdowns this year, but still, you're not paying -175 for an anytime touchdown score prop. Where you could look is at James Conner. 18 total touchdowns this year, tied for the 3rd most in the NFL. He did not score in the first 2 games for Arizona, but every other game except for one, including 4 times against the Rams in their 2 matchups on the ground. I would look at James Conner with a very nice plus money price.
And hopefully Conner isn't too banged up to be effective. All right, let's talk Niners at Cowboys. Now, that's going on Sunday, and what many are considering this to be the top billing of the weekend, right? So San Fran snuck into the playoffs thanks to their win over the Rams last Sunday. This game has the closest spread and the highest total. Dallas is a 3-point favorite. Over/under set at 51 points. And Niners are coming in hot, though, winning 7 of their last 9 games to close out the season.
Yes, Sierra, you took the words right out of my mouth. The shortest spread, the highest total of the entire weekend. The only game of the 6 we have in Super Wild Card Weekend that is not a matchup of 2 teams that have played at least once in the regular season. So unfamiliar foes in the opening round of the playoffs. The San Francisco 49ers have only been an underdog 3 times this year. In both of their covers, they won outright, but against the LA Rams in both occasions. The Cowboys own the best ATS mark in all of the NFL, 13-4 against the number. It is a short spread for a reason on Sunday.
All right, so the early game on Sunday, Tampa Bay hosting Philly. Tom Brady and the Bucs trying to go back-to-back. And it's a number 2 seed going against a team that was just 1 game above 500. The line really reflects that. The Buccaneers are favored by 8.5 points and -390 on the money line.
Yeah, it makes sense. A very big spread. In fact, the biggest spread that Philly has seen as a true underdog all year long. These 2 teams met back in the early portion of the season on a Thursday night. Philly was a 7-point underdog in that case, and they ended up covering that number. This will be the 11th game out of the 17 Tampa has played already this year where they have been an 8.5-point favorite or more. Very familiar territory for Tom and the Bucs.
Okay, so we're not done yet. 3 more games still on the slate for this Super Wild Card Weekend. Ben is going to help us navigate through all of them. Plus, we're going to get his best bets of the week. We're back after a quick timeout.
Welcome back to Props and Locks, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook.
Thanks for joining us on the eve of Super Wild Card Weekend. We've gotten into 3 of the 6 matchups. And there's nothing better than playoff football on a Saturday. I'm joined by Ben Stevens to break it all down. And Ben, who needs a club when you got two AFC East rivals on a Saturday night? The Bills and Patriots split their regular season series, both winning on the road. The forecast calling for sub-zero temps in Buffalo. The Pats are 4-point underdogs and plus 172 on the money line. Do you give the rookie QB any chance of covering that spread?
Maybe covering the spread, but it might be a similar game plan to the first time these two teams met in Buffalo in the early part of December. If we remember that game, it was the infamous game where the Pats threw the ball just 3 times with Mac Jones. They ran it 46 times in one of the ugliest football games you will ever see if your name is not Big Ten Ben, and the Pats won 14-10. So I don't know if Bill is going to give his rookie quarterback Mac Jones the benefit of the doubt. I expect the Buffalo Bills to win. That spread a little too sharp for my liking.
All right, so Steelers cemented their postseason hopes in that overtime win over the Ravens, and a bunch of other things happening as well. But odds makers are not feeling Big Ben making it out of this wild card weekend. Pittsburgh goes into Kansas City as a 12.5-point underdog and plus 500 on the money line.
What is so interesting about this, Sierra, is Kansas City has been a favorite in every single game this year, yet this spread of 12.5 is the biggest spread KC has seen in their favor all NFL season long, including a game just 3 weekends ago in week number 16 against these very Pittsburgh Steelers inside Arrowhead Stadium when KC was a 10-point favorite and won that game 36-10, covering the spread.
Okay, so the Bengals host the Raiders in the early game on Saturday. Cincy beat Las Vegas the last time they met to a tune of 32-13, although that final score is a little bit misleading. Joe Burrow and his first ever playoff game, the Bengals are 4.5-point favorites. Over-under is set at 49.
Sierra, this game has moved all over the place. Probably the most line movement we have seen in any of the 6 games we have on Super Wildcard Weekend. It opened in Cincy's favor at 6.5 points. It came down to 4.5 earlier in the week. It got back up to 5.5, now back down to 4.5. Where does that number close prior to kick on Saturday afternoon? I think at this price point, there will be some action back on the Bengals. The Raiders as an underdog this year, though, 7-4 against the spread, all 7 covers. Outright wins as well. Maybe an upset brewing in Cincinnati.
All right, the moment you've all been waiting for. It's coming up. It's my favorite part of the show. Ben shares his best bets of the week. More props and locks coming up in just a few.
Welcome back to Props and Locks, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook.
Thanks for staying up late with us on Props and Locks. And every week I get hit up for the best locks of the week. But I'm not the expert on this stuff. That's why I call Ben our betting bestie. And that's why each and every week he brings you his best bets of the week. And Ben, these are my favorite kind of bets. You like the Chiefs -7 in the first half. Tell us why.
Well, I like the Chiefs in the first half, Sierra, because as we discussed, the spread of 12.5 is rather large. But what we know about Pittsburgh, the second worst scoring offense in the first half in all of the NFL this year, averaging less than a touchdown. They have been abysmal at starting off football games. The Chiefs, meanwhile, the 3rd best scoring offense in the NFL, averaging just under 15 points per game. And the first time these two teams met at Arrowhead, KC had a 25-0 lead at the break. I know a touchdown in the first half is also a lot, but I like KC in that number.
Okay, I like it when you keep things a little spicy, and this one had me scratching my head a little bit. Dallas was hanging like 50 points on the reg this season, so tell me why you like the under for the Niners and Cowboys at 51.
Well, let me ask a question back to you, Sierra Santos. Who were they hanging 50-plus against? The Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles, their NFC East opponents. Outside of that, 4 of their final 6 games hitting an under. Now, San Francisco went over last week in overtime against the LA Rams to end out the regular season, but 4 straight unders prior to that. I think this is too big of a spread for 2 pretty good defenses, where if San Francisco wants to keep this game tight, physicality will be at a premium. I go under of the highest total of the entire weekend.
Okay, we wrap it all up with a prop. Damian Harris plus 120 for an anytime touchdown. Tell us more.
There should not be this price on Damian Harris. He should not be plus 120. He has scored 15 rushing touchdowns this year. That's tied for the 2nd most rushing touchdowns in the NFL. He has scored 4 touchdowns against the Buffalo Bills. He has scored a TD in all but 4 games, and he has scored a touchdown in 4 consecutive games for the Patriots as well. I'm not sure why it's plus 120, but I will take the plus money into Super Wild Card Weekend at any point.
I love it. All right, Ben, as always, thanks for sharing your insight and knowledge. And don't forget to check the lines on your FanDuel app. There has been a ton of movement. We're back. Same time, same place next week. Until then, take it easy.